Welcome to Pioneer Mindset, a place where we challenge our mindset and address the discomfort in both business and life by finding clarity resulting in bold conviction. I'm your host, Garrett Ruskamp, fifth generation farmer, husband, and father from rural Nebraska. Whether you're navigating frustration from past decisions or worry about the uncertainty you face today in your business, we're going to learn from our struggles and take on new challenges with a resilient mindset. Join me as I share my journey of struggles I faced in agriculture as a farmer and family man. I'm ready to dive into honest conversations to tackle the mindsets surrounding key issues that rural ag business owners face that will ultimately help you gain control, leading to a profitable and sustainable business. Let's adapt to Pioneer Mindset and get to it. Welcome back, everyone, to this week's episode of Pioneer Mindset. I'm excited to dive into the topic of how do we make decisions. Now, every day we have to make choices and decisions. Some of them are small, some of them are big. Should I get up and I should eat this for breakfast? Should I do this workout? Should I read this devotional? Should I take the kids to school this route versus that route? Should I hit record now or wait 10 seconds till I'm, quote, ready to record this podcast? So every day we have to make thousands upon thousands of decisions. And I was just kind of curious. I've looked this up. You've always heard this statistic of we got to make, thousands of decisions. Well, what is that number, right? So I looked it up, and on average, we make about 35,000 decisions every single day. Literally the decision to move my hands as I'm talking right now, or how do I emphasize on this word or that? There's just so many, probably a lot of unconscious, but a lot of conscious decisions as well. So when we take this one step further, and we're going to try to dive into when it comes to the decisions that we're making, on the business side of things, right? So for entrepreneurs, for leaders, for business owners, farmers, ranchers, business owners, how many decisions, how many high impact decisions do we have to make on a daily basis? And I'd say the number that I came up with was about 1,000 decisions. And so that was kind of the research that I did, was about 1,000 of those decisions that we make are kind of like high impact decisions. I'd say one of those would be, like I said, do I pick up this phone call and talk to this client? Do I present this offer in this way or that? Do I sell the beans today, or do I wait and hold on to them? Do we combine today or do we not? And so I could go on and on the types of decisions that we're making. Now, let's think about the quality of those decisions, because that's really what I want to dive into, is the quality of the decisions that we're making. What does it mean to make a quality decision? Before we can really answer that question, is what does it mean? Let's look at this definition here. So a quality decision is the quality of the choice at the moment it's made, judged by the process, not by the outcome. And I think that's extremely important there to really focus on. That is judged by the process, not by the outcome. All right. When I was thinking about this, the quality of the decision, part of that is also when I'm making the decision, how comfortable am I? Is it easy for me to go through the process? Is it something that I could easily kind of take myself, walk myself, talk myself through this process, and then kind of come up with the best decision possible? And so that's kind of why we think about the process, not necessarily the outcome, because the choice that we make, there's so much other outside influence that can affect the choice that we make. All right. So say we decide to plant, corn instead of beans this year. We look back at the decision that, maybe you made this spring based off of the information we had or whatever the case is, right? And so we look at that decision, whether that played out to your favor or not. There's so many outside influences there that we can't necessarily judge the quality of the decision based on the outcome, but we can judge it based off of the process that we use to make that decision. And so that's why I really want to dive into this. Now, the big goal here is to maximize value creation by ensuring the decision is informed, aligned, and actionable. And we're going to dive into those three here in a second. But I think those are really important. Is it informed? Is it aligned? And is it actionable? Now, you're probably asking yourself, Garrett, why is this important? Why are we talking about this? Well, first off, I'm going to go back to what I just mentioned before, is if you're a business owner, a leader, and if you're a father, you're a leader to your kids, right? So if you're a business owner, entrepreneur, farmer, rancher, we make thousands of high impact decisions all the time, every day. So how can we improve the quality of those decisions? Now, if we think about this, and this was kind of a light bulb idea when I really heard this, but if we can improve the quality of our decision making that will directly have a direct impact on profitability. Now, really think about that. All right. If we can improve the quality of our decisions, how we go about making those decisions, the process that we use, kind of the framework that we go through as each of those decisions come up, if we can improve that process, we are going to have a direct improvement on profitability. Our profitability will go up. And as we start talking about the profitability, that word, when I mentioned that, if we can improve profitability, all of a sudden, light bulb effect, right? Or I've got your ear again, or I've got your attention. As we start talking about profitability, it's a pretty easy word to throw in there to kind of rein you back in as we try to talk about how can we improve that, right? Well, first off, before we get into how do we improve this, we got to ask ourselves, where are we at today, right? How do we currently make decisions? Okay, as they come up, as you decided to, click on this episode to listen to this random dude talk on a podcast here, or as you decided to drive down the road, or whatever the case is, like I said, how do we currently make decisions? All right. So are they quick decisions? Or are they slow decisions drawn out? Or maybe are they emotional, or are they based off of facts? Or are they based off of your own instincts, intuition, gut experiences? Or maybe is it advice from others? Okay. So think back to an example of whatever kind of comes to mind here. I'm going to stick on the cropping side of things. Okay, so trying to plan out utilizing some cover crops for this fall. We're going to throw in some different mixes for some of the different fields that we have, trying to create some different biodiversity out there, trying to fix some nutrients there. So I'm trying to make these decisions. Okay, what kind of mix do I use? How many pounds of this versus that? Just trying to make this decision. And so I kind of going through this process for me and just kind of walking you through it. But we got to ask ourselves, what's the process that you use? So think about this for you and whatever maybe a big decision was for you. But for me, in this case, was it a quick or slow decision? Well, it was pretty slow, I'd say. In my decision making, I've had some previous episodes on this as we think about our decision making. Are we a very decisive person, or are we kind of more timid? Do we have a lot of confidence in our decisions? And so this is really what it kind of boils down to, is going back to that, some of those previous episodes, and have the confidence in your decisions. And so a lot of times if we're a very indecisive person, like I generally tend to be, our decisions get kind of drawn out, maybe a little bit slower. So that's kind of what this was. I was like, man, I just don't know what to do on some of these. So I was kind of relying on some outside advice, which is not a bad thing. So kind of somebody that's had more experience. So maybe we seek help on the internet. Maybe we seek somebody that's been there, done that. Some other industry professional that's had more experience than what we do on these different, say, cover crop mixes. Maybe we do our research. Maybe we look up, okay, if we're mixing this with this, can we decrease our pounds? What's this price going to be? Am I comfortable with that? Is this something that I think is going to work? And so maybe what's our past experience? Well, in the past, if I used a rye in front of corn at a high rate, it's going to tend to kind of pull up a lot of nutrients and not going to be the best thing in front of corn. So maybe we don't use rye, maybe we use something else. But also we got to look at what do we have available, so we just kind of go through this process and try to do the best that we can. Is it based off of emotions to where like, oh, geez, I heard so-and-so the other day or 2 weeks ago, or maybe it was 2 years ago, it did not have the best effect with this particular seed. And so, or maybe we're just based off of, I just got this connotation that rye in front of corn is not going to work, and all these other things. So I'm not trying to draw this out, but just thinking through the current process that we have when it comes to making decisions, right? And like I said, this could be big decisions, little decisions. Do we buy this piece of ground? Do we take the truck to this guy versus that guy to get it fixed? Do we harvest this field first or that field? But there's so many decisions that happen on a daily basis. So the big thing here is just how can we improve this process? How can we improve our current process? And by the way, I'm not trying to say that there's anything wrong with the process that you're currently using. Maybe there's just different things that we can tweak to improve. There's always room for growth and always room for improvement. So how can we do that to maximize the quality of the decision, right? But part of that is, like I said, just trying to figure out what do you currently do to make these decisions? And in that, what currently works, right? What of that process that you use do you think actually works well? What are some things that, once again, we can actually improve? So how can we improve these decisions, right? So how can we do the best we can to make a good quality decision? What's the process that we can actually look at here? Now is where I'm going to go back to where I mentioned the informed, aligned, and actionable, because I think those are really good kind of guidelines there as we walk through creating a process. And the big thing here is, like I said, going back to how can we improve or kind of utilize the current process that we have and further build upon that. Okay. So the process that we're trying to create here, starting with informed, is it an informed decision? Is it an informed choice? Are we making this based off of facts and logic? Maybe some different numbers, maybe research, maybe an unbiased opinion? Is it unemotional? Have we gone through like a pros and con process? Every time we got to make a big decision, a lot of times our mind goes to, okay, what are the pros? What are the cons? What are going to be the benefits? What are going to be the repercussions here? And kind of walking through that. So we start with, is it an informed decision? Or is it just like a snap decision? Maybe we bought something and it was just like, I got to have that. Boom, just went and did it. Or maybe it was based off of emotions, right? And so kind of walking through that, is it informed? And like I said, with the process of being informed, we got to ask ourselves, have we analyzed the facts? All right, what are the logistics? Okay, what are the numbers actually saying? That kind of goes back to the facts, but we got to have all of that in place in order to answer those different questions. Have we done our research? Have we maybe asked some other people? Have we gotten some unbiased opinion? And that's the big thing. There's unbiased from people that do not have a stake in what you're trying to decide. That's another big one there. Not to get on a side tangent, but when it comes to a salesman, if we're talking to a salesman that's selling us seed or selling us a tractor or selling us some fertilizer, and they are giving their opinion in there. Now, if it's unbiased and you can clearly see that and you're getting the sense that it's unbiased, they're just trying to give me value and they're doing the best that they can. They're not trying to get the sale. They're not trying to increase the amount of fertilizer, nitrogen, and phosphorus we're putting on the fields. They're not trying to sway us towards buying this tractor versus fixing our own equipment. If it's truly unbiased, that's what we're looking for here, to try to make an informed decision. And then unemotional, are we stepping back? Are we kind of removing ourselves from the situation, not just being all worked up and just in the moment and letting emotion just truly dictate the choices that we're making? All right. And then there too, have we kind of really sat down and analyzed the pros versus the cons? And that the pros versus the cons really sums up everything that we've talked about so far. The facts, numbers, research, unbiased, unemotional. What are the pros versus cons? Okay. So we've done that. Now let's move on to the next one here. Aligned. Is this decision aligned with our core values, with our goals, with our vision, even our mission? Okay. Is it aligned with others that are within the operation? If you've got multiple people involved, in my situation, I guess if I've got my wife involved and I've got my dad involved in the operation, even my mom to some extent, is it aligned with everything that they're trying to do or everything that they stand for as well? And so kind of going back to the core values and kind of the goals there, a big one that I'd say is just the way that I was taught, trained, and conditioned was to just to be very honest about everything that we're trying to do. And that bleeds through in multiple different areas. So let's say we're hauling beans in. We've hauled a lot of beans in here locally to Grain State Soya, which is local here in West Point, Nebraska. And when we pull the truck onto the scale, just the way that their probe works, it's kind of a little bit older setup, but they only can probe the front hopper. It's just the way that they can't really move it much, right? So they can only probe the front hopper. So am I being an honest person and am I having a true sample throughout the front hopper? Or am I hiding some 15% moisture beans in the back and I got 12% up front? Is that a decision that I'm making to how I load that truck based off of the knowledge that I have? Is it going back to my core values? And is it aligned with my core values along with everybody else around me as well? My dad. The reason that I'm such a truthful, honest person is stemmed from my dad, who's probably stemmed from the generation before him as well, right? And so if I do something that's kind of shady that reflects our operation, not only me, but our entire operation, and not saying that's the end of the world, end all be all sort of deal here, because a lot of people do that. But me as being an honest person here, I would not feel right with myself, and it would definitely not reflect, my dad or our operation well if I tried to run something like that, trying to push something, slide something like that through. So that's what I'm going back to here is this aligned with your core values, with your goals, your vision, your mission, and even aligned with others. And first off, taking a little bit of a step back, we have to establish those in order to help really further this process and really to help the quality of this decision. Like we keep talking about, we have to first kind of outline those. We have to outline our goals, our core values, and we have to make sure they're aligned with everybody else's, right? So that way, as a whole, our operation is going the right direction. And this is part of where this conversation came from, was listening to a podcast that this Andy Cajun, you can look the guy up. He's got a book called Stubborn, really works with a lot of farms on transition planning or succession planning, I should say. And that was part of like when we get multiple people involved, okay, we got to make sure that we're all aligned. We got to take these steps and put these things in place to improve the quality of these decisions. Like I said, they could be big decisions. And so we got to do the hard work to really improve this process. And that's what we're talking about here. Now, the last thing here is actionable. Are we able to actually take action on this decision? And is it done in a timely manner? When I think of like actionable, is it something that we've actually done? Like we've decided. It's not like we've maybe sat here and we've faced the facts. We've done our research. It's unbiased. We've done the pros and cons. It aligns with everything, but then we don't take the action needed. We don't actually make the decision. And so that's where, in order to really improve the quality of our decisions, you have to make the goddamn decision, boy. I mean, this comes down to everything that I say, because sometimes I get to where I've done the research, but I don't want to make the decision because maybe I don't have a lot of confidence in myself. That goes back to earlier episodes. Or maybe I'm just scared of the repercussions. Maybe I'm scared that if this is the decision I make, how is this going to affect others? Yes, this needs to be factored in there, but if we've gone through this process and we've done the best that we can, but we don't take action, we don't make the decision, how can we improve the quality of that decision if we don't make the decision, right? And so that's where we kind of go through those three different kind of steps there, the process, the framework of making it an informed decision. Is it aligned with our core values and with others? And did we actually make the decision? I think that can be very helpful in creating that process and improving the process that you already have. And that's how we can kind of go about that, right? So going back to profitability, because that's what we're here for, right? Is we're trying to be more profitable. And with a pioneer mindset, that's why this podcast is called Pioneer Mindset. We're going to do the best we can to change our mindset, shift our mind, walk and talk our mind through this process, right? But really the big end goal here is to improve the profitability. Like we just mentioned before, if we can improve the quality of our decisions, it's going to have that direct effect on a profitability. Just think as to how the simple things that you do, the simple and the big things, if we can improve them, improve that quality of that decision, how that's going to affect profitability for your operation. Think through it in your eyes, not mine. We're no longer talking about Garrett Ruskamp taking beans to grain states, or about making a cover crop mix. Think through in your eyes, in your operation, as you go about your day, as you're listening to this, if you can improve that quality, how will that affect the profitability of your operation? Not only that, the sustainability. As I go back to where I pulled this from the episode, as they're talking about succession planning, if you can improve the decisions you're making within a succession plan, how is that going to have an effect on the legacy that you're trying to leave behind? So this is a really big light bulb moment and kind of a big thing that I will hit on here. And it's hard to really drive this home until we start putting this into action. So now I do want to say putting the process in place is the biggest thing here. And it doesn't work unless it works for you. So I talk about these three things, the informed, aligned, and actionable, but unless we put it in place, we're not going to be able to get the results from it, right? But unless it actually works for you, it's not something that you're going to be able to implement. So how can you take something from this episode, pull this out, something that was relatable, something that really was a light bulb moment for you, and put that in place so that way you can actually get some of these actions, get the profitability back out of the quality decision that we're trying to make here. And so with that, furthermore, once we get something in place, as we kind of go about these processes in our mind and we kind of go through the framework, write it down. I mean, by golly, it wouldn't take much just to write this down. And so that way we have something to revert back to when we need to make a tough decision, okay? Maybe it's something kind of small or something minor that we go through this process and it really works well. We've outlined a process that works well for us. Write that down. Because maybe on a bigger decision, it might actually help you work through it a lot easier. It might actually affect, once you know it, the quality of the decision, the profitability of your operation, the direction you're trying to go, the legacy you're trying to build, and all of that stuff. And then the last thing here is just refine the process and learn from it as much as you can. We need to refine the process and continually be learning from it and improving it as much as we can. But I will say the last thing here is part of why this was a big eye opener for me and kind of a light bulb moment, it was because of the phrase that I talk about a lot with Pioneer Farmer, with the clients that we work with. Everything we're trying to do is making the best decisions possible with the best information possible. That's exactly what we're trying to do here, as we're trying to make, I should say, just like I said, improving the decision process. In order to do that, we got to have the information, okay, and just to make the best decision possible. And after that, once we've done that, it's just kind of up to faith, right? We got to have faith that everything's going to work out. Or once we've done that, we see the outcome, then we can improve that process furthermore. And so, like I said, going back to Pioneer Farmer and the clients that we work with, and ultimately we're trying to help them do this, right? Help them to improve that quality decision making, help them be profitable. And we do all that by giving the best information possible. So if it's a decision on the business side of things, and we're trying to decide, maybe, do we buy this piece of ground? Do we transition it down to junior or juniorette? Or do we go ahead and go through with this expansion? What do we do here? Part of that, going back to the basically informed decision, is having the information that we need to make that, right? Having the balance sheet laid out, having the cash flow established, and having a cost of production that we're very informed with, so we can make these quick decisions, whether it's be selling the grain today, whether it be holding on to it, whether it be renting this piece of ground, whether it be trying to maybe slow down and shift our gears elsewhere to this new business venture, whether it be just trying to work through all those shiny object ideas that we get as visionaries, as entrepreneurs, trying to work through which one of those we should actually capitalize and maximize, right? Whether it be going through that process, just making sure that we have everything laid out. And that's exactly what we help our clients do here at Pioneer Farmer. And so just want to throw that out there. If you want to learn more, definitely reach out to me. I'd be glad to have that conversation as to how we can help you in your operation improve the quality of your decision making to be profitable and sustainable, and to make sure that we are actually getting results back from the decisions that we're making. And so once again, just want to drive home the importance of how we can improve this decision-making process, and ultimately how that's going to have an effect on us, not only from a profitability standpoint, but from a confidence standpoint, from a being standpoint, and from an energy standpoint, that we're bringing back to the operation, that we're going in the right direction, from a conviction standpoint, that we're doing what we need to do. We have purpose in everything that we're trying to do, and we're going in the right direction here. We're not just laying awake at night wondering, is this all going to work out? Is this all this blood, sweat, and tears that we built this operation up for? Is it all for nothing? Is this something that's going to play out, right? If we can just really affect this simple process here, this part of your operations, part of how you make these decisions, it's really kind of hard to put a dollar amount. It's hard to put a value on it. It's hard to put words on it sometimes, actually. And I'm not trying to make this sound so juiced up here, but it's just literally the thought process of how can we improve the decisions we're making each and every day within our operation, within our personal life, within just our daily lives, right? The decision for me to stop talking right now and just hit stop so that we can go about your day. But like I said, I hope there was something within this episode that resonates with you, you found value in. But for now, I'm going to make the decision to stop talking and let you get about your day. So that's all I have for now, and we'll catch you guys next time. Welcome to Pioneer Mindset, a place where we challenge our mindset and address the discomfort in both business and life by finding clarity resulting in bold conviction. I'm your host, Garrett Ruskamp, fifth generation farmer, husband, and father from rural Nebraska. Whether you're navigating frustration from past decisions or worry about the uncertainty you face today in your business, we're going to learn from our struggles and take on new challenges with a resilient mindset. Join me as I share my journey of struggles I faced in agriculture as a farmer and family man. I'm ready to dive into honest conversations to tackle the mindsets surrounding key issues that rural ag business owners face that will ultimately help you gain control, leading to a profitable and sustainable business. Let's adapt to Pioneer Mindset and get to it.